see now.
Okay, we're on.
Okay, all right. So, ignoring all the faff that we just had to go through. I have been working on what I did work on, which is the Y structure, where escrow or any money coming in, whatever we call it, and I've got a suggestion for that. Any money coming in is counted as a contribution, as opposed to any kind of purchase or even purchase license. It seems to work. So, get rid of that. Save my laptop to falling like there. The way yeah, that's not the full version. Okay. Luckily, here's the full version. The distinction I've made is, okay, so you start with a stock, and that stock has the contribution of adding the stock into the wealth of stuff that we don't know how to do or someone wants. The next major life cycle thing, I've kind of gone down the route, I hope you're okay with this, to unify the terminology as much as possible with Git. So you go from a stock to a release, and a release is when a help is first birthed. It's like first time this is a help, and the difference is a help is available to be used in a JIT app. Before that, it's not ready. It's not anything. So I've been thinking about the roots between it's not anything, it's just an idea with two blokes talking in a bar, through to it's on the system and can actually be used. So before that initial release, I've called it a bounty, because the bounty is there in order to say, keep going, guys. If you get to this release, if you get to a release, which we'll talk about, if you get to a release, then you've done this thing. It might not even be the person who created the stock, but it's like, I want that thing to happen as well, so we'll give you a bounty. As soon as you get to release, then you got a chunk of cash, let's call it. I've simplified it at the moment, I'm just talking about cash. So that's the bounty, previous escrow. And any time between the inception of a stock and just the second before release, the bounty can be withdrawn. That's fine. All you do is you're not part of that contribution once it's released. The second thing is a tip. I do like the idea of a tip. So a tip is just, hey guys, I like what you're doing. That was useful.
What you're doing or what you've done?
In both cases, because a tip can be offered to, can be assigned to a help or a stock.
If it's assigned to a stock, why is it different to a bounty?
Because it's not, the bounty requires a release in order to be effectively turned into a tip. So, but a tip is just, here, claim it. If you guys want to claim it, it's there.
We can't do that, I'm afraid.
Now that's a contribution. That makes sense?
Yeah.
My volume's
it does make what?
My volume's gone down. I'm just bumping up it. Yeah, there you
go. It makes sense, I understand, but that is troublesome because that is money transmission.
Define money transition.
Money transmission is the transfer of money in the absence of a good or service exchanged.
How different is that to someone leaving $10 on the table for the waiter? Whether he picks it up or not is
the difference is that the tip is left in conjunction with the meal, if you just turned up and gave the waiter $10 without taking any meal, that's not technically a tip. Now, I don't want to. I don't want to kill the.
It's
I don't want to kill the buzz with hair splitting, but there's a way to map out all these kinds of relationships, which are really just, we've given them names here and everywhere, but actually they're really definitive sequences of when money arrives and when work arrives, much like how you can classify all levers as like first, second, and third class levers just by the order of the fulcrum, the load, and the effort. The same can be said for a lot of these entities, where they can be reduced down to the what, i.e. the asset or the work, and when, like
Yeah. Okay. So this is good. This is good because I've been thinking along the same lines, and maybe tips the wrong way to talk about it. But the life cycle of an idea through to something useful as a help, and then through to version 2, version 3, version 4, forking, merging, use and jitter, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be the major transition is between it being a stuck and having that first release. And there seems to be a difference between putting an escrow bounty against that stuck in order to encourage it to be done, because that's forward-looking, as in not in the in the SEC sense, but in the terms of I want that thing to be done, and so I'm going to incentivize you to help me do that, or do you do it for me? Brilliant. There's a difference between that versus, for example, purchase. Now, you could argue purchase is similar to a tip, but a tip is different to putting a bounty up, because you already know what's happened. The risk is not
the
there.
risk is different. Yeah. So this is just a loose idea, but we might want to quantify or objectify the risk as well, because that might make it simpler to at that point it allows you to treat money the same, and all that's happened is that you have a risk component, or it's either there or it isn't, and so it doesn't mean that you gotta, money plus risk is the same as bounty, versus money without risk is the same as, but money without risk, that's the same as what the price setter said is just a purchase, and money without risk that is more than what the price setter said is a tip. For example.
Yes, I mean, I think you're quite close in that one. So the division, in the life cycle of help, if you, let's square away. I think bounty we're okay with. Bounty is you haven't produced yet. Here's some money, and that money will be released without any further discussion once it's been released by the rules of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tip is very, very close to something you said in the last call, which is a purchase without use.
Yeah.
And purchases, defined here, are a contribution. So if you use the thing, that is a contribution. And we'll figure out how valuable that is and so on, or the bot will eventually. But a tip is just same as, I'll buy this piece of software from you, but I'm not even going to download it. So it's very, very similar to a purchase. Now, your concern there was around if you give money and you don't actually use the thing.
Yeah.
That's a different status.
Yes, it's a different type of transaction.
I'm not aware of that. It sounds a bit weird, but yeah. What's the details of that?
Well, a tip. So in the Stripe rules, a tip must be given in conjunction with the consumption or the purchase of a good or a service. And if it's,
isn't that just variable pricing? It's like a set amount of price that you have to pay, and then you have a variable amount that you could pay. Is that what they're rules are getting at there.
Yeah, but the thing is, because there was something of value changed hands, and it's really about um, if you want to send money without having value change hands, you need licensing, like you need a money transmitter license.
Okay. I kind of get where they're coming from there, but is we're generally not trying to break the spirit of that thing. But how about then we talk about, instead of tips, we talk about a purchase, of which there's a base, and then there's a bit above that, and we don't care whether you actually use it.
Well,
Oh, yeah, because it's got to be part of a jitter, right? But what you're saying is, I've used this jitter.
you
It's
got to
like, that's
consume it.
great.
Yeah, you got to consume it.
It's like,
And if you're not consuming it, then you're trying to do a donation or a money transmission. And
or a bribe, yeah.
yeah, in our model, you're actually trying to do a donation, and so that too needs to be regulated because it can be easily used for scams and other types of things. So I actually agree with the rules, but I didn't want to kill your buzz here. It's. I don't think that we should pay attention to the rules until one layer up. We should design it in its purest sense, allowing for all the combinations of activity that we see value in, and then all that matters is a set of configurations where, for example, by making that rule change that a bounty can be removed at any point right up until the work is released, or the rule that the bounty also needs to be approved for it to be finally handed over. Those types of rules are configuration options. The Dreamcatcher itself could be run with
they're,
varying.
they're business rules. They're business rules.
No, the different to business rules. They're configuration parameters of business rules, because
Oh,
the
I see.
business
I mean,
rule,
how much, when
right?
can
Like,
you,
right,
yeah,
and like, what's the dispute
yeah, yeah,
period?
yeah,
What's
yeah.
the maximum amount that can be bountied? What is the threshold of decentralization? So, if we can define this thing as in terms of all the objects with all the combinations of the rules that we might find useful, then we can configure it to match any different jurisdiction, because different places have different rules.
Yeah, interesting enough. Just before coming on, I asked a similar question and see if this is the right. No. There's something separate. I was going to make it into a Python model so that we can generate. Oh, here we go.
Right. May I just pop out and pop back in? My
Yeah,
display
yeah,
is going crazy. I don't know why.
really? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, go for it. And you're back. How's your
Not fixed. I'll just have
machine?
to deal with it. I think you're on a roll here. I'll just
Why is it
put up with it.
going weird? But okay, all right. If you're okay with that. So we're getting. You'll see from when you look through the repo on Dreamcatcher business rules. And wait a second, that's not the full version. This is the full version. I'm just going to copy that over because I don't know why I didn't commit to that last version. And yeah, okay. So that. Oh, what? It's defying me. Oh, there you go. Okay, so damn it. So what I've added here, right? I've split this into actor entities, as in people, with a collective noun being an actor, and then different roles that an actor can take, and then into non-actor entities, as in different things.
Mm-hmm.
And then this helped a lot, actually. There's core concepts, yeah. And then actions. This helped a lot.
Sweet. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So now it knows all the actions you can take to. Now, the reason I'm pointing that out is I then ran it. I asked it, are there any logical issues with this version? Which tries to define the system. And I came back with quite a well-worded and polite no. So definitions, implications of bounty and tip, role of contribution, bot, so on. Now, one of the interesting things, so we've got a few hanging things because we said about karma, that's in the definitions and it's not actually used. Because I haven't defined it, it's not because it's not useful. Dispute resolution, something we need to talk about. So in summary, this is the claims processing and dispute resolution is it's number one. That yet to.
Yeah. Okay, so, and that was the whole point of saying that if you can pull your money out at any time, then that should drastically reduce the number of disputes that could occur.
Well, except if you've spent like a month on a stock and you were with the expectation of a bounty and the guy pulls it at the last minute.
No, you should. If those rules were set ahead of time, you should know that's what the rules are.
People get grumpy with that one, but it's perfectly reasonable because by pulling a bounty, you don't log a contribution. And
but what you should also have is you should really only work on stocks that have the highest number of committed bounties, because the chance of everyone yanking on you is low.
Well, yeah, and also you should also work on those stocks that you think you can do faster than anyone else.
Yeah, because you don't want to get outpaced to release as well.
Right. Yeah. So if you can do it in a day and you think someone else is going to do it in a week, you should go for that. And the reason you can do it in a day is because you've done it before, and so you're probably going to be better at it. And so it kind of pushes the talent towards something of high need that you can do easily.
Right. That's a positive influence, I think.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. On the tips, I could remove the tips, or I could just change them into purchases.
No, if you just leave it, and then we'll deal with altering the rules later on, because even, for example, as you say, that some people might get surety if someone pulled a bounty, even though they did the work, like maybe we should be able to simulate that.
No, the interesting thing though with that is if you've built something of magnificence with huge value, they're not going to pull the bounty because they stake the bounty early on, and because it's earlier, higher risk, and therefore it'll be counted as attribution with more leverage. If they pull the bounty at last minute, if you're a rational actor, it means that you think what's being produced is a bit shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so the quid pro quo is there's an incentive there not to produce shit
Mm-hmm.
because the bounty's going to be pushed, going to be pulled rather. And so the first person there with the best thing is the one where everyone's going to put in the bounty. Now, one question is, well, I've got a number of questions actually, and this is a really rich topic to talk about. If I wanted a new jib machine, and jib machines are complex, but there's like a dozen people or 10 people around the world who think, I can do a jib machine. Okay, so I have a bounty. I just want a jib machine. The first person over the line might not be the best. The guy it takes a day later might be like 2-3 times better at jib making.
Mm.
And so there might be something in putting bounties across different work streams. So you've got, say, you've got a stuck. That's forked 10 times. 10 people working on them. You've got one bounty on the whole thing. You might want to pull this guy's rubbish, yeah. But these guys, and then the race goes down to 3, and so on. And then at release, it's like, do you choose the winner? Because that is a good incentive to good work.
Yeah, but also the work might come in later. So one way you could achieve that is to allow you to refuse the payout to the given submission, but allow it to stay there. So you've put your bounty up, someone's made a release or whatever, and then they go, oh, you can either refuse to pay out and leave your bounty where it is, or you can withdraw your bounty completely. I think as long as those are two separate actions, you're free to say, no, I don't like that for whatever reason. And then,
yeah, and what you're doing is you no longer have that contribution, so you're not
well,
considered an attribution.
Yeah, not to that finished thing, but
Yeah.
if, like, if 3 months later someone else comes along, does a release, and you like it, and you release it, then you still get the contribution for the output, the release.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yes.
And within that, probably the guy that you refused, if there are similarities to the thing that you accepted, that guy will get some attribution too.
Yeah. Yes, well, that'd be up to the attribution, which can vary and is publishable and transparent. But there seems to be quite okay, so this will come back up in a second, go back through to the things that I discovered here and try to think it through. In terms of what the stuck is, there seems to be quite. Let me take 2 stories. You've created a new zip algorithm that's faster than anyone else. Brilliant. That's going to be reused lots. And the second story is you've worked on a website that's not particularly reusable. Maybe it's unique, and it's like, I'm going to go for teal colors, not orange. It's like, yeah, okay. So the guy who asked for, can you improve my website, is a stuck. Then I think there should be some kind of requirement for that bounty to be paid out if the original intention of the stock is met, regardless of whether it's reused and valuable, because it's valuable to at least one person. So that one person has thought, actually, I want to get an extra 100,000 people to my website, and the other person is going, I want to get faster zip. Zip is definitely easy to reuse. The website, not so much. So you
Right.
could
It
get
doesn't.
shysters
So
coming in.
it doesn't. Are you suggesting terms for which we would force a payout to occur? Because
Yeah,
I think yeah, I think there's a so for example, if it is like I want to change my website and there's absolutely no reusability except to me, and so it's obviously a scam if I convince someone to work on it and then um, I pull the money, but I got the thing and I'm the only one that can benefit from it, so I effectively
exactly.
stole
And it's
something,
that
right? Yeah, yeah.
I got my thing.
So the way around that
Yeah,
is to allow a separate mechanism by which people can enter into contracts with each other where the bounty is contracted in some form, and I think that that would be a good place for the platform to add a high levy, like a 20% levy or something like that on it, because now you're in the realm of dispute resolution
exactly. That's where disputes come in,
and
right?
risk management, risk taking. And
Exactly.
so the contract would be between the platform or the gateway entity and the the bountier, and then there would also be a contract with the worker and the gateway company, and the gateway company is the dispute settler. So
Exactly. And it's that dispute management thing which is highlighted, which is something I've not really addressed in the rules at the moment.
hmm.
But I think
But
that comes down to, yeah, if
I
there's
think
only
that's a
one person,
separate system. You can make that a separate system. Like it can be a layer on top of this base system, right?
you could say, well, it's basically hiring work, and then putting in what do you need, and then allowing a bot to say, has this dude first over the line provided that, so he's going to get paid.
Yeah, right, right.
You
But
can't
it
you can't pull the bounty. That
does.
sounds like there's another thing. It's like I don't know what the word is, but say like a contractual payment. Do this, I will pay that. Whereas a bounty is, I've gone out on a piss with my mates. I've had a great idea. I put it in. I put $100,000 in. Next morning, there's like 1,000 guys trying to do this, and it's like,
Yeah.
shit, I'm gonna pull it.
So it's like a property of the bounty that it can be either a contracted bounty or
Or yeah,
it's free. It's free to be pulled. It's
yeah, yeah, exactly. And the stuff that is free to be pulled is the stuff that will be reusable.
right. Does that how does that relate then to people who want private work to be done?
Well, that would be contractual because if in the allowed to be pulled thing, if you want private work, then you could just at the last moment go, uh, that's what I asked for, but I've changed my mind because I've had 2 3 weeks, uh, and now it's not what I want. I'm just going to pull it and shaft the guy who's been working. So private work, because it's private, needs to be that one-on-one relationship, which is contractual.
What about if I find 10 other people for the private work? Or what if it's
10 other contributors, as in
10 other consumers? If me and some buddies all want the same, like a joint venture.
then no, that's fine because that's more value. Um, so if there was one person acting as a proxy for the 10, that would be just a one-to-one. There's 10 guys in here, and one guy pulls out, like, yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's all the same mechanism, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think so.
all
I
right,
think
so
so. I'll
that
have to think about that.
you can have a contracted bounty or an open bounty, and then it's up to the workers to decide how they want to deal with that. The contracted bounty is required because
Right.
if you want work that's of absolutely no use to anyone but you, then to entice workers, you're going to have to commit to something. Otherwise, who would
Yeah,
take that risk?
and the interesting thing is there's interesting kind of push and pulls here, right? If it's an open bounty, and you got a whole bunch of people saying, should I bother doing this? Number one, they're going, how quickly can I do it? Can I get it faster than anyone else? And how well can I do it? Which is the previous thing about forking and then deciding between a bunch of people. Some might have taken a day later and so on. But they're going to go for the innovations that can be reused most because it's an open bounty. Because from their point of view, fraction of a second before release,
Yeah,
the guy pulls a bounty, and it's like, are you
yeah,
still okay with that? And it's like, no, you own it, man. You
yeah.
own it.
So deeper than that, though, I think that the most extreme version of that rule is that even after you've posted it, the person even after you've released or submitted your work, the guy who posted the bounty could still refuse or could still pull the bounty. Like, that's as free as it. That's the extreme freedom.
Yes, it would be. What's the implications of that? So
But
at the
that
moment,
isn't
we've
that
got
what you were
this.
talking about with like quality control? Like that's the ability for it's a form of rejection.
Yeah. So at the moment, what got it is a fraction of a second before. If you press release, there's a workflow that goes up, and quality control does all the tests,
Hmm.
checks against what was originally asked for in the bounty, decides boom, 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 and pays out. Now, fraction of a second before that, you can pull the bounty, and it would still go through the same tests, but the
Hmm.
contribution would all be down to the guy who built the thing.
Correct.
Um, but I think what you're saying there, if I got that right, is you release, goes through all the checks, the bounty is still there.
It
It
still
comes into
requires release.
existence.
Yeah.
Well, the release is the
No,
uh,
no.
trigger.
I'm suggesting something different.
Uh-huh.
The bounty, w- the bounty should still require manual payment even after the release has passed all the checks.
And
Because
oh no,
that's
no,
the
no, that's fine. That's fine. No,
yeah,
no.
that's fine,
So
right?
the release is at the tail end of all the checks. So it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, you don't get released until you've passed all these checks.
yeah,
Now the question is, if you pass all the checks and there's a release there, ready to
yep,
go, everyone's happy, except you as the bounty holder,
yep.
and you go, no, I'm gonna pull it.
Will not pull it. You might want to keep your bounty there, but reject that particular release and say, I don't like it. You should help us out and tell us why, but you're not required to because
All right.
that allows someone to come along later and do a better version, one that you do accept, and then you would.
Yes, no, that makes sense. Because who gets it right first time ever?
No one, right?
So it's like, version one, version two, well, version 01,
Mm.
02, everyone hedges by putting beta on it.
Listen, if we're basically saying that
Yeah,
the released money carries rich information, which is what the price of the stock market was supposed to carry, but it sort of lost that a bit. But if it's
yeah.
carrying the information about pass or fail, then we can improve the language models based on like just because the language model said that something was good to go for release doesn't mean that the humans also approved it, and it's sort of a way to extract that information.
hmm That also blurs the. I agree. It also blurs the boundary between what we're calling a tip and a bounty at the moment, because it's the bounty payment point. You've got more information about risk at that point. So if you go through all these things and go, no, that's not right, change it.
No,
No, it's not
no,
right.
no,
I'm holding
you
off, holding off.
don't, because the value of the bounty is the fact that you initiated it when it was when there was full risk. And so a tip is something that you initiated after the risk has been decreased.
Yeah, but why wouldn't that? Why couldn't you game it by saying, "I'm going to get a bot that just puts $100,000 on as many stocks as possible, and then pull it at the last minute. Then tell me which ones actually are useful, and then I'll just put the $100,000 on this one instead of 10,000 stocks.
Because you can't bounty in parallel. You to do
You
1,000.
you put it in escrow, and yeah, okay, yeah, fine.
You'd
So
need
you,
100. You'd need
yeah,
$100
you need
million
$10 million
to
yeah, 100
to
million.
do that on a. So great.
Okay, all right. Okay, we're getting somewhere here.
Like it's a funny thing that occurs when you do these pure freedom rules. Like we can
Yeah,
distort it and get back to traditional contracting, and then we can like unscrew it a little bit and get to joint venture.
but the
But then
fascinating thing. Sorry, go on.
the
Sorry.
full freedom part is like it's like a crazily high tuned version of focusing on needs, because now you're not going to get paid unless the person likes what it is. Like
The reason go back to my Adam Smith fanboy thing. The reason I like Adam Smith, and he got a few things wrong. Maynard Keynes helped a bit, but he got a few things wrong as well. But the base rule is if you have a system where anyone can choose to turn up
mm,
and interact, why the fuck would they choose to turn up? And if you get a system, for example, what we're trying to do here is you don't need permission. You turn up and you do a stuck. Why would you choose to do that?
well, it's sort of like trying to fill the gap. It's trying to fill the gap between open source contribution and private paid contribution, because that's a huge missing gap. Open source is flourishing, but who's paying and why?
Yeah,
And if
and close has got a huge deduplication problem.
yeah. So we're trying to hit that sweet spot, because open source, the methods of payment are not as free as this, and they're not able to rapidly allocate against incentives or usage. So this type of system allows you to run a bot that can analyze where the weak spots of an application are, and put money against those weak spots in an automatically managed way, as opposed to having to manually understand it and fiddle it around and jiggle it and all that.
Yeah, and we haven't, for a while even talked about merging stocks, which I think is a huge thing.
The merge, yeah.
Merging stocks before a single piece of work has been done on any of it is brilliant. If you have a vector space where there's a lot of people having a similar kind of idea, merging those into one stock, that's a powerful stock, because automatically you've got however many people thought of something similar around this space. That's demand, and so that's going to be reusable. And so then the bounty, if I was to do a bounty snipe kind of application in this, I would look for as many stocks that are similar as possible, and then either merge them, or if we get around to doing that, or just create a stock that subsumed them all, and then I put a chunk of cash next to this. It's like,
That's right, yeah. But that's good though. That's a good incentive
yeah,
to say that, like it causes the most stocks per minute to fall.
right. And if I was a dev looking at that, I was saying, okay, so you've had like 10, 100, whatever people have similar stocks in this vector space, and it's now squished into one stock, and you put $100,000 against it. I'm going to do it, because even if you pull, 100,000, I've still got the evidence that, all these guys want this, and so I know I'm going to be able to sell it. It's going to be obvious, and I don't even have to. I've just put it on the marketplace, and it's just going to be a passive income.
That's right. Plus, it incentivizes those most difficult of stocks, which are the ones that no one's overtly asked for. They're like the ones that are missing, the ones that are implied.
Yeah. It could be, yeah. God knows what it would be. I'll always go back to the zip algorithm, but there are many, many others. For example, some kind of daemon that we didn't need to spend 10, 15 minutes figuring out why I messed up with GitHub, and just fixes it. You know.
Just fixes it. Yep.
Okay, so right, back to this. I'll just take you through this. So the thing that I'm thinking about is a transition between idea stuck. Oh, and I'm just going to run with these names for now, and we can fine tune them. But they're everything in this document is consistent. No, it's self-consistent.
It's a bold claim.
Oh no, I've run it through several bots, and they all agree. So, it's not just my meat brain saying that. And as you can see, nomenclature is, if it's defined, it's in caps.
Okay.
Which helps the bot as well as me. Okay, so there's a transition point. So stuck gets created. Until that point, the next big life cycle thing is a release. So release is defined as such. So it is a snapshot of a help. So release is gone through the whole testing thing and is now available for use. A stuck before that is not available for use.
How can a stuck be made available for use in a just-in-time app?
Oh, damn it! You've found something. Yes, no, that's nonsense. Thank you.
Told you it was a bold claim.
Yeah, it's a bug. It's a bug. The timer stuck. Release of a stuck is the thing that births a help. Help can then be versioned, forked, merged, and so on. I'm not sure about whether we allow a stuck to be forked and merged. I don't know what your view is on that. That possibly is the right thing to do. I don't know. Because essentially, a stuck is a different way of... So if you imagine, this is kind of an entropy thing, right? A stuck is very low information, but useful. And then the information increases and turns into code. It feels similar to a help, but it's not actually usable. You can't use, Dave down the pub said, wouldn't it be great if we all had hoverboards? But it is a stuck. So I think there is a phase transition between a stuck and a help, but it feels very similar.
I don't think so at all. I think a stuck is a discrete piece of information that is purposefully tailored at highlighting a problem. The partial solutions of that I would call them helps, but they are unreleased helps. A released help is a help that has reached a sufficient quality standard, of which the purveyors of the platform have defined, to be considered a help suitable for resolving a stuck. But before that point, they are still helps that are targeted at a given stuck or many stucks. They just simply haven't reached the quality level.
Right. Okay. I think we're very close on that one. In that a stuck can't be used.
That's right.
It still has information, but I think a stuck can be forked and merged.
Oh, absolutely. They can be forked, derivatives made, deduplicated by merging, deleted, even all sorts.
Yeah. Or call it garbage collection when there's a whole bunch of stucks. It's like, dude, you're never going to get a hoverboard. I'm still waiting on the jetpack.
They're there now. Jetpacks, they look pretty good.
There's a Royal Marine. I've actually had a call with him 6 months ago when it's like, oh my god, that's brilliant, you got a jetpack, can I come and use it? And he said, yeah, give me £6,000. It's like, oh, thank you.
For one ride?
No, it was, to be fair, it was like a 4-day course.
4-day course flying jetpacks for £6,000.
Yeah, in order
That
to be.
sort of sounds reasonable.
It sounds reasonable. I just didn't have £600, and it's like
Well,
then
who
it's
does
like,
these days? But yeah,
mm.
we should do that.
This guy
We
is
should do
awesome. This is guys. I'm a kind of like in the kind of network of people. I'm 2 steps away from this guy, and so it's like
that.
that's a mate. I was like, oh, you know him? Can you put me in contact? He's an awesome dude. He's absolutely awesome. He's literally built.
We should do that.
You know? Oh, I'd so love to. I'd so love to. Anyway, okay, so right, we're agreed on that Stucks have the same. Let me be precise because I'm trying to get this more. Have the same actions defined here.
This is really good. Like, these definitions are tight. Like,
Yeah. Oh man, this is what I've been doing
small.
for the last 4 days. Yeah. It's just like I've been removing as many adjectives as I possibly can and deduping, time and again. So stuck can have these actions on it, as can a help. And then the phase change is when it becomes useful with a release. Now, who says whether it's useful or not? Say if something is a bit shit. And
again, that's part of the initial conditions set by the consumers of the platform. You can have like that was the same problem as who you choose as your QA. So when a stuck is created, its QA is assigned to it.
Can I give you a contra
Sure.
point on that one? I think something is useful when it defines what it is and what tests it runs against and passes arbitrarily of what it is and what those tests are. Because if you try and say there's a big stuck in there and you solve a small problem that's really quite useful, and you just say, hey, okay, someone comes along and saying, that part of that stuck, that wee bit, that would be quite useful for me. What test does it pass? So it's defined by the tests versus a chunk of code. And that is a release, even if it's inside of a bigger stuck. So a stuck can be partially
No,
released.
because then, like, that's still not enough. Someone needs to select what the properties of those tests are, and in your scenario, you are implicitly doing that. We are trying to run a decentralized platform. That means that one of the critical things you choose is what is the release policy that you want to adhere to. And so,
I get where you come from. Now I'll push back again and see if there's
dude, there is
value in
no
this.
way that you could make an all-holy set of rules that I couldn't write something that would pass your rules and still be garbage.
Yeah,
I promise you.
But say if the release is defined by there's this bit of code and it passes these set of rules, and you can see what these rules are, then it becomes close to, for example, say a stuck is I need a car, and then someone designs or builds a wheel, just one wheel, not very useful for a car, and someone says, actually, I really need that one wheel. What kind of wheel is this? You get quite close to like a product description on eBay. It's like, I have one wheel, a tire, and it bounces. And it's like, I could use that as a swing for my kids. That'd be really useful. And it has this tensile strength and so on. Because you've advertised what it is and what tests it passes, if you want to use it, that's great. But it's a true and fair assessment of what it is. It might be shit, it might be not shit, it might be big. You might think, why would anyone use a car tire for a swing? But you're thinking, I need to build a swing. It's like, oh, I'll use that car tire. So I think by defining it in that way, you can actually release parts of it.
You could. I'll accept that you could say that that's what a release is, But within that, you need to choose some parameters on um, what the cutoff point of the quality of something is. Otherwise, you'll just have a place that's filled or drowned in garbage, and people will naturally make curated lists of good releases. What we need to have is a set of bots that know how to determine useful releases, for example,
Oh,
for the
okay, all right.
Dreamcatcher
So
platform.
if
So
if
it's
that
like you're
doesn't,
missing an actor. Like there's an actor in there that
it's
is
yeah,
chosen by the participants,
right.
the
Well, actually,
QA,
interesting enough, that
effectively.
yeah, yeah. That's a really good point. So we have a bunch of stucks. We haven't defined what level of complexity the stuck could be. It could be a
Hmm.
1.1, 1 plus
Yeah.
1.
In the decentralized system, a stuck has a hash ID. It could be literally, you could make a machine that just spat them out. But for the the Dreamcatcher needs a layer in there that isn't defined anywhere here. That is the filter.
Yeah,
The
it needs a. That's not a stock. Come back when you've got a stock. Come on,
Yeah, and
you
that
know.
that that can't be set. It can't be set at a software level. It needs to be set at that's a preferences level, because that's a service that was released into the network that offered itself as the Scott said so QA,
Yeah,
or the Scott and Tom together agreed QA. Different different quality things. These
right.
are subtle, right? Like we're gonna release with a version that we chose, but under the hood, it is swappable.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's like that old kind of thing. What is porn? Well, you know it when you see it. So I could create a stock. It's just like I have a function that takes one, adds one, and puts out two. And here's a test. There it is. There's a help. And it's like it's not very useful. So as you're saying, there needs to be some kind of threshold of
Yeah, and what that
usefulness.
piece gets chosen as is sort of like what the bountiers and the contributors, they all need to agree with what was chosen. Like the bountier could choose which QA they wanted to affiliate with. Same with the contributors. Like everyone gets to choose amongst these different things, because this is the key to both censorship resistance but also censor compliance. Because being able to operate the Dreamcatcher in a regulatory compliant manner means that you're going to need to kick out stucks and releases that have forbidden things like hate speech, or talks
Yeah,
about genocide, or different
yeah,
types of
bad stuff. Yeah, yeah,
bad stuff,
yeah.
right? And so running a particular aggregator or filter, those filters are very important because they take the blame, they take the responsibility of curation.
Well, I agree, and there's another one I'd like to add to the pile of stuff to do. Is I was thinking about prior art. Now, my definition of prior art is pretty parsimonious right now.
Oh, right, yeah. So copyright detection needs to be part of that release cycle too, to satisfy
Well,
the powers that
well,
be.
well, yeah, exactly. If someone creates a stock and then generates a help that just simply does a zip algorithm, which is basically exactly the same. Yeah, you're just going to noise it up with large numbers of zips, and then you've got the problem with, well, who's first and so on. And so there needs to be the deduplication. At the moment, I've been thinking about it as open stocks. It's like let's deduplicate, or open helps. Let's deduplicate. But if someone has already solved this back in 1972, then it doesn't deserve to be a stock because it's already solved
Hmm.
or partially
Um.
solved.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go real soon, buddy.
Yeah, no worries. I've got loads to go on, and this has been really useful. Really, really.
This is
Perfect.
really useful.
Yeah.
I think we need to find a way that we can carry on this discussion with these items using the generative tools to help us reconcile things faster, because we could sit here and go through them one by one and have a discussion that would
Oh
take
no, we could.
ages.
No. That's not what I've been doing. I've got adversarial bots up, a bit like a judge panel.
Right. So we
I've been
can
going
say,
round and
okay,
round,
so we should
kind
be
of
able to
getting them
set up
arguing. Yeah.
this adversarial set of bots, and then you and I can add bits in and ask questions
Yeah.
as we go,
So
right?
yeah. So what have we got? About 5 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
So just to let you know where I'm going with this. So I've got the adversarial bots, 3 bots, which one is the most random, creative. There's one a bit in the middle, and there's one like legal. Fucking hell, no, you must only do this. And I'm putting this in front of them, and then I'm giving the outcome of each other bot to the other one. So each bot gets 2, saying this is one opinion, this is another opinion. What do you say? I'm going around, which is honing up lovely. Now, the next step, which I've already actually started, is to put it into the ERD format, and then I was going to generate a model, like a piece of Python code, and get things happening in it, and then look to see what looks odd. So, I was going to set up. I've not done it yet. I've kind of started it. This was just earlier this morning. What was it? I think it was this one. Yeah. So, I was just going to get a model up and then say, throw random events at this. Here are the rules. Here's your game, and I'll sit there and watch for odd things as the next kind of human path, human filter.
Okay, hang on. So we should be able to do that in natural language.
Oh, this is all.
Python, and
yeah,
we
yeah.
should be able to do it as.
Well, the only reason I was going to Python is because I was hoping for a nice graphical display to make each game tick, just easier to consume as opposed to.
Yeah, but what's a tick? So you should be able to make a series of top-level stories that are in plain language describing how different things have happened, and then you should be able to get a natural language execution of it, I think.
Yeah, but wasn't because there's quite a large number of combinations. The search space is quite large. Was the reason I'm going down the Python thing is I just want a display of like here's the Y, someone's forked, done this, random guys put in a bounty, okay, and so on, and that's just easier to consume.
I think you'll die doing that, because I tried to do that for the Ethereum Dreamcatcher, and it very quickly gets enormous. Remember that state chart that I made that was just ballooning out of control? Like, that's where you're heading.
I was hoping to like watch it almost like a movie. It's like going backwards and forwards. It's like, okay, what happened there? It's really much quicker to.
Yeah, so I guess we'd also need ability to debug the system while it's running, because if we're like, well, why has this odd pattern occurred, like a bounty release or some other.
Why was a flash crash on this stuck?
Yeah, so how would we even navigate or browse the running Dreamcatcher?
Not by interesting enough. Natural language is brilliant when it's like information in, but when there's a lot of information out, I think it needs to be in a widget.
A widget, yeah. So you'd have like, what would that even look like? Like, would it be a state chart? Would it be a workflow? Would it be a graph?
Well, my favorite one. Okay, so if I'm going to ask for a pony for Christmas, I may as well ask for a big pony.
He didn't say
would
which
be
Christmas.
would be a VR space with a big time moving backwards and forwards, where you're surrounded in a graph. That's
Like
how I see it.
a tree, like a graph, like a DAG type of thing.
Yes. Well, like a DAG, but also with states. Uh, so it's like moving forward. Oh, this guy did that, and so on. Douglas Adams has got a great uh, description of this when he was thinking about, and this was like 40 years ago, 30 years ago. He was talking about what the stock market of the future would be like, and he was saying it's a bit like a field of wheat where someone's going out with a scythe. And it's like, yep, I'm going to take that, I'll seed this, and so on. But that is big pony thing. There is a way to do that. That's easier. But the point being, interacting backwards and forwards is NL. But consuming large amounts of information is a pain in the arse to have to read page after
We've been
page
sharing
after page
ideas.
after page, especially when you ask another thing and the pages slightly change.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, so my next thing would be, well, what's changed? I quite often do that prompt. It's like, what have you just changed? And they go, here's another page of text. It's like I spend more time reading than I do prompting.
Yeah. Okay, so let me try and sort of see.
It's something about that. It's
Like that?
yeah, because there's going to be so many metrics that we're wandering around that at that point you need your meat brain in order to start filtering them, but in a way that is fast. I mean, this is one way. Looks pretty cool, actually. I'll check out one mapping in mixed reality. Could end up with hilarious results when someone, spills their choco latte because they've walked into a bench.
So you're saying you'd want it to be those entities, but the entity diagram would be exploded into 3D space, so that you could, and then you could have a time scroller that showed
Scroll forward, scroll back, and then
which entities appeared, removed, connected to what actions were created, and so like one tick is just one action.
Yeah. Right.
And then and then you could scrunch actions together, like you'd be like, I only want to see releases, and then you'd
exactly, and that comes back to impact crystals, right? It's like I only care about this dimension,
right?
It's like in-dimensional impact crystal. It's like I only care about this one, or I care about this, and this one. So we've now got 3, and so okay, and now the only thing that I think is absolutely necessary because it's a time series. It's like the time slider, because it's like.
And have you got in mind what the file system layout of this entity relationship diagram that you've been working on, what it looks like on the file system?
The one I've just said.
Yeah.
The VR thing. No, absolutely not.
No. I meant the entities that you showed me in the text that you had on the screen.
Oh yeah, I've already created it. Yeah.
The file system. Okay, how does that file system work when it is decentralized? As in, it's not an app. It's lots of people have lots of different stacks and different.
That's a brilliant question, but I'm aware that I'm holding you because you said 7 minutes ago they had to go in 5.
Yeah.
However, the TLDR is there are 2 types of things that can create a state change. So there's the actor entities and the non-actor entities, and decentralized is how do you control the non-actor entities, given that the actor entities are actually humans. So then that collapses, saying, okay, so how do you control or how do you agree about what the pricing bot is, or the attribution bot, and that then collapses to a simple decentralized piece about how do you agree on any file. So I don't see a problem with that. Let me. Why does that pop up? Windows just popped up. Gee. Oh, okay. Controller's just gone. Oh, not now. Okay, right. No, you need to go. We'll go through this. We'll go through this.
Okay. So and what I'm still working on is getting the switchboard up and getting that M function going. And there's quite a few quirks to it because, like, when you want to switch a thread, it's also the same as wanting to switch a topic. Like, you work in topics, you don't really work in threads so much. And so that needs to be included in how M will choose which thread you go into. So I think I got a really basic version kind of going, but it's a little different than what we thought.
It sounds a bit like intent, as in what you're talking about now. And do you switch intent, as in do you switch topic? I don't know.
Something like that, but yeah, it's not exactly as what we'd laid out in the discussion, but it seems well enough. And a shortcut I'm taking is to defer having the remote thread aspect working at the moment. So I'll just try and get the bare minimum long thread up where we can start playing with some of these agents, in particular the testing agent, so that we can test things like M, the summoner,
cool.
The switchboard, and then get some reliability there, and then we can hopefully maybe start using our platform instead of the playground. So
yeah, grand. Okay, so for the next 24 hours, I'm going to keep on with what I'm doing here.
okay,
Very, very, very valuable stuff we talked about today.
sounds lucrative.
Yeah, it's amazingly how difficult it is to get actually pure words into definitions.
But it's really like a big part of the Dreamcatcher is being a requirements management tool that can be updated via conversation and questions, and it provides the spec of what the thing that you're building is. So that's,
Right.
we need to get, I think we can't really claim to be a company until we can say what our requirements are very cleanly. And I don't want to have to do that unless we've got generative tooling on our side, because requirements management sucks on a small project. For this damn thing, it's huge and it changes a lot. So,
well, the wonderful thing from going from definitions is you can immediately express it as an ERD, of course, flowchart. Yeah, you can create tests in terms of swim lanes. Those tests can be proven to be passing or not.
yeah, I think once we can get that, then that allows us to define stucks on the things that we want done next, and that is the point at which we can form a company and raise capital. I think, because that's a legitimate.
Yeah,
you're ready to go at that point.
I would be now put aside whether the person at the other side of the table would be smart enough or care enough or give a shit, to put the effort in. But I'll be happy to raise just on a set of assertions around definitions and actions between them, because it should be obvious. Now we'll make it easier, of course. We'll do all those nice
It's not
things and
enough.
so on.
That's not enough. The system needs to work. It needs to be chattable and mutatable.
Oh yeah. But those are characteristics, not the definitions. It's like if you're really going to hammer down on it, you have definitions and actions between the things that you've defined. You could put that into an AI and saying, "Will this company work?"
Will this company work? Hmm. That's an interesting question. I think that's maybe that's the minimum or the most high quality thing we could provide to a set of investors is like, we built this system. Here's the requirements that we use the generative AI to make and to manage, and you can ask questions about it, possibly improve it. Here's the work that needs to be done and the estimated costs. Here's the projections on
Yeah.
what will come back for this
And
company.
here's the sources that we've used those projections against, and here's the
Yeah,
error bars. And not only that, here is some Monte Carlo analysis. If any one of these goes wrong, at what point does it break? Here are the break points. Here are the
right,
ones that
right.
don't go
And so people can start chatting with modifications on those assumptions to suit their own personal beliefs and
right.
whatever secret data they've got. And then that's how you're like, well, this is why you should invest in this company,
Yeah,
or not, or some other company.
yeah. And we're still only at what was it? Yeah, 193 lines defining
It's
the
pretty
Dreamcatcher.
tiny, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, that sounds
Right.
pretty good to me, man.
Yep. Okay. Right. I'm gonna go now. Let you go, and I'll
Okay,
see you tomorrow.
okay, buddy. I'll see you
Thanks,
later.
man. See ya.